No man's knowledge can go beyond his experience. John Locke. My friends, we see stocks up for the day. We see bonds and gold down, gold way down. We see Bitcoin down just a little bit and still no opportunity for a practice trade on Bitcoin. We'll get to that shortly, but let's first jump in to the S&P 500 where we always start on our weekly chart. And what do we see happening? Well, as we look at our candles and we see this week, after a red spinning top last week, we have a green spinning top this week. And where are we as far as the price percent oscillator goes? It is just a little bit, a wee bit underneath the signal line. That is the exponential moving average 8-period signal line. It's just barely under it. So we'll see how things end up at the end of the day on Friday. We're going to have an up day. We're going to have a down day. We'll wait and see what that tells us. Now, what have we been talking about? Of course, we have been watching this 2-day chart to see what it's been doing. Of course, it crossed over going down just before we saw the weekly vertical crossover going down. And we can see that things went up Tuesday, Wednesday, and so far on Thursday, it is heading up, but it hasn't crossed over going up. So Friday's going to tell us a lot about what is going on. We can see where it's blown through the weekly trend line. And we don't have a trend line on the 2-day chart because we just haven't had much of an opportunity to really draw one. We took it out because of this up movement over the last few days. So we'll continue to watch and see what's there. Look at this half-day chart. As we track it, we can see that it just continues to move up. Popped up big, of course, on Tuesday, and then sort of slid sideways and up just a little bit on Wednesday, and then popped up nicely on Thursday, 1.12%. So we will keep our eye on the prize and see just how this week ends up. As you look at and you step back, and remember, we encourage you on Wednesdays after the market closed to do that, to step back in the middle of the week, look at your weekly chart, and just get a feel for sort of where things are. Where are things? Well, you can tell by looking at that weekly chart. They peaked and they're moving sideways. Now, are they trying to gain energy and hammer up again? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, again, it's a lot of indecision there. So we'll keep the powder dry, continue to watch, and see how things go. Now, you want to talk about squirrely, we get to the Qs. It has been squirrely, and we've talked about this ad infinitum already, but we look at how that weekly chart has been laminated and sliding sideways as far as the price percent oscillator goes. You get into the smaller charts, you can see, because we've had up and down moves and not good, strong movements, and that oscillator has just been sort of hanging right around the 8-period exponential moving average line, which is our trigger, our trend line. But what do we see for the week here? We see up movement. Now we go to the 2-day, and this is what we talked about before. I can't remember the last time this happened. A weekly vertical crossover going down while the 2-day chart was actually going up. And then the 2-day moved down, but is now bouncing off the red signal line. So let's see how things look on Thursday. I'm at the close of the market on Friday, rather. We see what they look like first day of this latest 2-day candle on Thursday, and they're topping out about right where they did yesterday. On the last 2-day candle that ended on Wednesday, represents Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll watch and see what that's about. Derivative oscillator gaining some upward momentum, price percent oscillator pulling away from the red signal line. We look at that half-day chart, and you can see where it crossed over going up back in the afternoon on Tuesday, and sort of sideways and then popping up in the afternoon, but again about where it was back on Wednesday morning. So we'll watch and see how this week settles out with the Qs. I'm ready for some movement, strong up or down. I'm tired of this malaise that we see. And as I explained to you, you can see where the oscillation is being just burned off. It goes up and then up and sideways, up a little down, strong, then up and sideways, and then up and then down, and that just doesn't give us any good strong. We want nice either greed pushing things up strongly or fear pulling things down strongly. If we don't have that, it's hard for something like a lagging indicator like the price percent oscillator, which is a percentage version of the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence indicator. Keywords there, convergence, divergence. If you don't have strong convergence or divergence, the indicator doesn't help you a lot. And remember, the derivative oscillator is a triple smooth version of the relative strength index. And again, it shows you basically our price is continuing to escalate up as far as price over price. Is it moving higher at a higher percentage, or is it devolving? I sort of call that, is it evolving or devolving? And of course, what we've seen over the last few weeks on the derivative oscillator is, I guess you could call that devolution. They're better math terms, but that's what we're talking about. So that is where we are when we end the day with stocks. One more day for the week. Now, what do we see going on with bonds? Bonds down 0.27%. Nice down week, reaching a lower low after 2 weeks of sideways sliding. That's good to see. Price percent oscillator moving at a greater angle down. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. That's good to see. 2-day chart. Remember, we had that 2-day crossover at the end of the day on Wednesday. Thursday's nice to see more down movement. Price percent oscillator pulling away from the red signal line. Of course, that was a 2-day recross, and it's good to see that happening. Derivative oscillator also going negative. Now again, this candle hasn't finished drawing. It'll finish drawing on Friday, but that's good to see. And we see on the half-day chart, again, things moving down in the morning and not so much in the afternoon. Overall, down a little less than 0.5%, as I said. So that's where we are on bonds. That's going in the right direction, which is down. And of course, the inverse fund that we look at for bonds, TBF, Tango Bravo Foxtrot, that is the ProShares short 20-year treasury. Now, that means that when the treasuries are going down, TBF goes up. Have you been practice trading this in the inverse? Well, I encourage you to do so, just so you get used to it and see how it works. Does it work for you? What kind of return are you getting? It is set up to move a percentage in the inverse of whichever direction TLT is going, the underlying asset. So that's what an inverse fund is. Of course, puts, if you want to know how to trade and get involved in options, we have a great training. It's available at any of our 3 levels of Patreon support. It's a 3-part series. We've got nothing but high compliments on it. I'm very proud of it. It's called Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way. If you're interested, follow the link to become a Patreon member. And of course, we'll send you immediately everything we talked about yesterday in the live question and answer session, plus all the other great trainings. Bitcoin training, short chart training, long chart training, all sorts of good stuff. Okay, let's move on to gold. What's gold up to? Down big, 2.15%. Of course, gold rotated over, going down when? Way back on September the 11th. Incidentally, that's my birthday. That week, that is when gold rolled over, going down, and it has trundled down somewhere from $181 all the way down to well, I guess it hit the low actually back in December of 166. So far, 167.34. But again, moving down nicely, pulling away from the red signal line, derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. 2-day chart really spiking over. Remember, we had that 2-day recross back on the 14th of January, down strong that next week, and then just tried to move up. And then over the last 3 days, really spiking over, going down. And again, 2.15%. Of course, that would have given you a nice return shorting gold. So if you had held in there and waited for it, quite nice. Of course, I want gold to turn around and go up. Hasn't yet, but big strong down move for the day in gold. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum, price percent oscillator spiking over, going down. And of course, you can see where the real down move was in the morning and not so much there in the afternoon. But look at that price percent oscillator heading down, derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. So gold, again, continues that move. All things being equal, the market tends to move in the direction of what? The weekly chart, your biggest chart. That's your biggest wave of greed or fear. Fear when things are going down, greed when things are going up. Think of it that way. That's where we are with our 4 big charts. Lastly, we've been doing it for you lately, talking about Bitcoin because you want it. I listen. What do we see? Down for the day, 0.79%. Bitcoin, hit that high around $41,000. Then bled all that off as people must have been taking profits. Slid sideways, trying to move up. Still positive as far as the price percent oscillator goes, even though it's moving down. Derivative oscillator's negative. Look at this 2-day chart. It's a little less than flat. Derivative oscillator still negative, losing downward momentum. Again, going into 5 days of up movement, but when I say up candles, let me say that. It was down for the day just barely, 0.79%, which is not much for Bitcoin. It can move double-digit percentages, during its moves per day. But we see things sliding sideways, 2 days still in the negative. What are you waiting for? You're waiting to see if and when this 2-day chart recrosses going up. It's worked quite well for you in the past when you've had weekly vertical crossovers in effect. Things have pulled over going down and then crossed back over, giving you a nice jumping in point. So that's what you're waiting for your next practice trade on Bitcoin if you want to practice it and learn what it's all about. And of course, remember what our quote was for the day? No man's knowledge can go beyond his experience. That's why we tell you 10 to 15 minutes a day every day, learning how this works. Practice trading all you can. And of course, once you get good at the practice trading, you think you're good, switch over to a little fractional trading where you're putting a little skin in the game, a few bucks, not much, and you're seeing if you can actually do this. And again, nice thing about fractional shares is instead of dumping in, $300 for the S&P, you could dump in $50 or $100 in a fractional share. And again, if you're at one of the online brokers, it doesn't charge you anything for doing it. So easy to track. If you've got $100, you can tell, look, I thought I was good. I just lost $5. That means you're 5% down. So again, fractional shares, I'm going to put that at the end of today's training. It'll be on the screen at the end of the video. Please take that training if you haven't already. It's for free. It's for you. And of course, if you are a subscriber for free at chartingwealth.com, go there. You're going to get the magic of the weekly vertical crossover. That's your training for today. I hope you're taking those every day, filling out your daily market worksheets. Those are available for free in your show notes. Going through those every day, once a week, the weekly market worksheet. And of course, every time you do a practice trade, the practice worksheet. So we're waiting for that 2-day recross. Lastly, we look at the half day. And of course, it's just sort of hitting up where it had previously. And again, just going to have to wait and see what happens on the 2-day. The 2-day is the key right now for, again, potential resuming of the up movement. That's where we are. Hope you're having a great week. One more day, and we'll see how this market ends the week for us. We'll do that weekly review and forecast, get you ready for a good weekend. God bless. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.